We stand before God, majestic, holy, and utterly other. His righteousness rises like dawn over a silent world, a light that does not ask permission to shine. It exposes, reveals, summons. The gospel is not merely news, it is the unveiling of God's righteousness, power for salvation, a revelation of who He is before it is ever a gift to us. This righteousness is not abstract, it is holy, active, a perfect standard that exposes every pretension and secret rebellion within us. Creation speaks, conscience echoes, the invisible attributes of God, His eternal power, His divine nature, press upon every human heart. Under that unflinching light, every pretense collapses, every hidden rebellion is seen. Holiness does not negotiate, it reveals. Pause here, let the weight settle. The gospel unveils God's character, calling us into honest worship, worship that begins with truth. And once the light exposes us, the question arises, what hope is there for the exposed? Romans does not leave us suspended in judgment. It leads us to the place where righteousness is given. He is the justifying God. God's righteousness does two things at once. It condemns sin, and it stands ready to justify the guilty without compromising itself. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. This is not an accusation. It is a verdict, unanimous, universal, and inescapable. But God, rich in mercy, presents Christ as propitiation, the sacrifice that satisfies justice and opens the door of mercy. The cross is not a symbol, it is a transaction. Justice met, wrath absorbed, holiness honored, sinners declared righteous. We do not craft righteousness. We do not contribute to it, we receive it, declared over us by the God who justifies the ungodly. This is the scandal. This is the hope. This is the cross. Holy, a single word that fractures idols and humbles kings. We glimpse it in law, prophecy, and apostolic witness that points beyond our grasp. But if this holy God justifies, then we must understand and embrace the holy God who also judges. Romans does not soften Him, it reveals Him. Wrath, mercy, and the sovereign God. God's wrath is real, not impulsive, not emotional, not human. It is the holy response of a perfect and holy judge toward evil. In fact, intimacy with Him reveals that His wrath is both holy and pure, measured, righteous, and necessary. But mercy is no cheap sentiment. Mercy flows from His character and from a holiness that will not be diminished for convenience. His mercy is costly because sin is costly. It is free because God is free. He says, I will have mercy on whom I have mercy. This is a declaration of sovereignty. He governs wrath and mercy with the same holiness, the same wisdom, the same eternal purpose. To grasp the profound depth of His mercy, we must first learn to tremble before the ugliness of sin, its weight before Him and His hatred of it. God's compassion is not a polite indulgence. It is a legal rescue that begins the moment we stop arguing with His right to condemn. It is there that worship becomes honest, confession that does not hide, lament that does not pretend, and astonished gratitude for mercy that cost Him everything. But mercy does not leave us where it found us. Romans now leads us into the inner chambers of God's work, the Spirit's work. Glory is not mere radiance, but the visible honor of God as He makes righteous what He demands. Romans 11 and beyond sing of this depth, a God who requires righteousness and then provides it, who exposes sin and then covers it, who judges rebellion and then rescues rebels. The righteousness He reveals is not only the standard that condemns, it is the gift that justifies. The God who stands in holy severity is the same God who bends in mercy to clothe the ungodly with the righteousness of His Son. The Spirit who makes us alive breathes life into what was dead. He does not improve the condemned. He resurrects them. He seals us as God's own, turning legal justification into a living relationship. The Spirit Himself testifies with our spirit that we are children of God. This is not a sentiment or a vague idea. It is true adoption. It is identity, and it is inheritance. The Spirit frees us from the law of sin and death. He restores the mind. He awakens the will. He intercedes with groans too deep for words. The language of God spoken inside the weakness of man. Creation groans. We groan. The Spirit groans. All of it moving toward glory. A glory ordained before time, a glory into which we are being conformed, a glory shaped by Christ himself. And when the Spirit lifts our eyes from ourselves, Romans brings us to the summit, the sovereignty and wisdom of God over the entire story. We see the wisdom and sovereignty of God. God's sovereignty threads through every stage of redemption. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is wasted. Nothing escapes his governance. Paul reaches the peak and can only worship, oh, the depth of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God. This is not poetry. It is surrender. It is the soul bowing before mystery. From him, through him, to him, all things. Therefore, worship is not casual or flippant. It is trembling gratitude. It is obedience born from tender compassion. It is faith resting on the enacted righteousness of God, displayed in Christ. Let our response be single-hearted, confession that tells the truth, faith that receives the gift, obedience that honors his holiness, and a life shaped by the Spirit to reflect his glory to the world. The final promise of glory is both terrifying and tender in its weight. Terrifying because it reveals a holiness that consumes all falsehood. Tender because it welcomes the justified into a future secured by grace. Glory is the end of the story, but righteousness is the foundation. The ground God lays before he shapes a life, the gift he gives before he forms the soul, the declaration that precedes transformation. Be still and hear, he is God.